It was the one place you used to think that your child would be safe. Instead, our schools are turning into killing fields. It happened again today in Littleton, Colorado, and this time it was a massacre.
The lax school security, prevention programs, popularity of guns, and the mental health of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold culminated in the 1999 Columbine school shooting, which launched a new frontier in American schools by creating stricter school policies and security, more mental health and violence programs, a trend in gun violence, and a new fear that many students and teachers in America have to face. More U.S. school-aged children die from guns than on-duty U.S. police or global military fatalities. Deaths of school shooters have been a pressing problem that has loomed over students and teachers in America as they fear for their lives every single day. This fear all stems from one horrific day in history, which was the 1999 Columbine school shooting.
Before the Columbine school shooting, safety procedures were entirely different than the way we know it now, lacking proper safety and security measures. Drills were typically performed within a classroom, and school locks locked on the outside and not from inside. Law enforcement and first responders were not trained to go after the shooter, which meant they had to play the waiting game for SWAT to arrive and aid local police. At the time, it wasn't as difficult to purchase a gun as it is today, as perpetrators Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris understood the loophole in the new Brady Bill, which was that background checks are only required for licensed dealers, not private dealers. They exploited this by bringing their friend to a gun show who purchased guns for Harris and Klebold through private sellers, so they never had to undergo a background check. Additionally, the shooters had shown numerous signs of deteriorating mental health with evidence that they would threaten the safety of their fellow students. Their involvement in the Trenchcoat Mafia, a group of social outcasts who also made video projects, should have raised suspicions for their admiration for violence. However, most believed they were harmless video gamers. Klebold and Harris's journals displayed their psychopathic ideations praising serial killers and of their mental health struggles, which if the administration had looked further into their school essays, yearbooks, or journals, they could have received help. Sheriff deputies had even warned administrators at Columbine that Harris might be making pipe bombs, but the school had felt they had no reason to look into the matter further.
Were you aware of any signals that there were individuals in your school who were capable of doing something like this?
No, never. I have been a member of this school for 20 years, of this community, not in my wildest dreams.
On April 20th, 1999, in Columbine High School in the city of Columbine, Colorado, Klebold and Harris arrived at school with sawed-off shotguns, handguns, and rifles that were hidden away in their bags and under their trench coats. At 11:15, Eric and Dylan opened fire in the parking lot using explosives and semi-automatic weapons. In an effort to escape, everyone in the cafeteria flipped tables over and tried to hide underneath them in the hopes for some protection. A few people were able to contact the police, and others were successful in leaving the premises.
Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He has shot out a window.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm in the library. Yeah.
Is there any way you can block the door so no one can...
I guess I can try to go, but he's right outside that door. I'm afraid to go to the door.
That's okay.
That's where he is.
In fear for their lives, the students who were still inside the cafeteria watched the gunmen toss a number of explosives all over the building. A student, Aaron Kahn, remarked, "It seems like they were enjoying the time of their lives." The first SWAT team arrived 20 minutes after the gunfire began. Klebold and Harris ended the lives of 12 students and one teacher. The shooting ended at 12 o'clock when the shooters took their own lives. 45 minutes later, students were being transported to local hospitals, and more SWAT, paramedics, bomb squad, and fire trucks followed. Unfortunately, 3 more individuals died due to the late reaction from first responders. After the mayhem subsided at 12:30, 15 people were killed, more than 20 were hurt, and the community was left to pick up the pieces. Paramedics and first responders took hours to arrive on the site, causing many students to bleed out. This event sparked national outrage and raised concerns about gun violence.
Columbine established a new frontier in school safety protocols and gun violence prevention that has been written into modern-day crisis plans. We now live in a world in which active school shooter drills have become the norm, and everyday conversations on the best hiding places in the classroom, how to barricade the door, and how to throw objects at an intruder as a distraction have become a second nature in schools. Teachers have to acknowledge that they have to risk their life in order to defend their students, or that they have to administer first aid to wounded students while first responders try to secure the assailant. First responder protocols have adjusted so that rapid response personnel carry heavier assault weapons and are trained to follow the firepower. However, even though these changes are made, there are still faults within the system as seen during the Uvalde school shooting, where police don't take aggressive actions against the shooter, which would result in the death of elementary school children. After numerous school shootings, states are now passing laws restricting one's ability to obtain guns by closing loopholes, setting an age limit to gun purchases, banning high-capacity ammunition magazines, and requiring stringent background checks. Despite all of these measures being put into place, the number of school shootings in America have not been on the decline. The prevalence of mass shootings in America have also evoked the gun violence prevention program in the U.S.
Politicians who sit in their gilded House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have ever been done to prevent this. We call BS!
We spoke with Tony Montalto, president of Stand With Parkland, the National Association of Families for Safe Schools, to give an insight on his foundation and personal experience with gun violence.
We look at school safety a little bit differently than what's been done in the past, specifically after following, Sandy Hook and Columbine. There were efforts that focused on one thing. We look at school safety in a little bit more of a holistic way. We look at the need to secure the campus, provide improved mental health screening and support programs, and finally, if you choose to own one, we need to ensure responsible firearms ownership. All three of those things let our families down that terrible February day. It's made my life nearly unbearable. Losing a child is the worst thing that can happen to a parent. Actually, I didn't lose her. She was taken from me. We spoke with Governor Scott, and that's the things we were able to accomplish initially in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act, which was passed just 3 short weeks after the shooting. And in that, we were able to raise the purchase age to 21. We were able to have the aforementioned red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders enacted.
Columbine has also helped propose and implement measures like threat assessment teams, anonymous tip lines, and initiatives to reduce bullying in schools across the nation. While Columbine helped create preventative measures, it also acted as a blueprint for other shooters and amplified the romanticization of serial killers. 6 mass shootings and 40 active shooter episodes have occurred at U.S. elementary, middle, and high schools since the 1999 Columbine High School tragedy. Nearly half of those 46 school shootings had deliberate reference to Columbine, as in one case, a girl had brought a gun to a school and described her infatuation with Columbine.
What started as one of America's worst massacres within a school transpired into a horrific reality that many parents and students have to face today. According to data from the Gun Violence Archive, California experienced an average of 44 mass shootings per year between 2013 and 2021, which is 1 mass shooting every 8.3 days. The Sandy Hook school shooting had taken the lives of 28 kids, pushing for a movement towards gun control. However, it received pushback from a misinformation campaign that made theories about the shooting, which brings in the question of what will change gun laws. The Sandy Hook Promise was created in 2012 as a way to advocate for the protection of children from gun violence and will continue to be a voice for the vulnerable. Many victims of the Parkland shooting had also taken to advocating for better gun control and gun prevention. Even the threat of a school shooting can be seriously traumatizing for students, as shown through the numerous false calls made around the country. Our very own school was put on lockdown with the SWAT team filing in where students had to fear for their lives, all for a prank call. The lack of school security system, absence of a prevention program, and the ignorance of the mental health of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold devised the 1999 Columbine school shooting, which set a new frontier of stricter school and security policies, more mental health and violence programs, a trend in gun violence, and a horrifying fear that many have to face in schools. Despite changes, the shooting inspired a generation of young men who wanted to emulate the horrific acts, whereas the government is still unwilling to pass laws to enforce stricter gun control, even though children are constantly dying, which only furthers this vicious cycle until true change arises.